Hello, hello. Welcome to Courage Becomes Her, where we connect and share real life stories. I'll talk with women whom I love and I'm inspired by, women who are experiencing life just like you and me. I'm excited for us to gather together and cultivate confidence, courage, and joy in life and work.
I remember just thinking, I'm not going to settle, because I think sometimes when we're moving back into dating, whether it's for the first time or you're back there again, we end up thinking, well, what can I deal with versus what do I actually want? And who am I? And how do I let that person out so that whoever connects with me, they're going in eyes wide open, and me too.
That was Shannon Eckmann. All right, buckle up tight as we launch into today's conversation with Shannon. Shannon has been a dear, dear friend of mine for 9 years, and she is a constant source of encouragement and just love and life-giving words of wisdom for me. And I'm so grateful for her to join us for today's conversation and to share her wisdom, her insights, and her journey with us. So Shannon talks today about becoming a widow at 31 years old and her journey of dating and remarrying, and how at first she was not interested in dating or ready for dating and stayed that way for many, many years. And then how it came about that a friend suggested that she consider it, and how she started to feel panicky about moving into the dating scene and why she felt panicky. She unpacks that in just a really lovely way. And then she talks about ultimately just that whole process of finding someone and thinking about, okay, do I want to actually be vulnerable with a new person, and what does that look like to do that and to open up and make herself available for that and a new season and a new relationship, and then the joy that came for her as a result of doing so. We also have a little bit of a side conversation of what it's like in our culture to not only be a young widow, but to also be in a place of unhappiness, and how difficult that is for people around us to just experience our unhappiness and to know how to deal with us when we're in a place of unhappiness. And I really appreciate her wisdom and insights about that. So thank you so much for listening in today. And I know that you are going to enjoy and just find a lot of courage and encouragement through today's conversation with Shannon. Shannon, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation for Courage Becomes Her. I'm really grateful to have you with me today.
Oh, I have been looking forward to it. So this is great.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been looking forward to it as well. So we're going to talk about marriage here in a couple minutes, but let's get to know you first. So where is home?
Home is Portland, Oregon, and I've been here forever, although I am Canadian. So I grew up in the Midwest, but I consider myself a Portland girl.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, it definitely, you have made it home for sure. Okay. Something I don't know about you is what's the first concert that you ever went to? I do know you love music, but I don't know what your first concert was.
You know, it's so crazy because I went to hear the opening band, and the opening band was Aha. So I'm totally a kid of the 80s, but the main act was Meatloaf.
Oh my heavens.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't even think I stayed the whole concert because I just really wanted to go to Aha.
Yeah. I don't blame you. That would have been same thing if I had been you in that situation. Oh gosh. All right. What's a current obsession of yours in any genre?
You know, I've heard you ask this question of others, and I because I am right in the throes of middle age, it's like lowering salt intake, drinking more water, like all of these. Ask me about any vitamin in the world. I'm trying to figure out the magic combo for me. So I feel like making friends with my current body and trying to figure out how to feed it well.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, so true. That's, yeah, I think that is definitely a big thing for all of us. My friend Heidi, who was a conversation back in November, that she and I had talked about that. And she also is in midlife. And that is definitely, definitely a thing for
Yeah.
us.
Oh man.
I like how you said making friends with our current bodies. Yeah, that, amen to that for sure. All right. What is something that has made you laugh or filled your cup in the last 24 hours or so?
I've met a new friend, and sometimes as we get older, it's harder to meet new people.
Yeah.
And so she was a former client, does some work with our organization, and her and I finally said yesterday, let's go out to dinner. So the two
Oh,
of us had dinner together last night, and I came back just joyful, just the fun things when you're meeting someone new and you realize you're really clicking.
yeah.
So that was we had lots of laughter last night and just a real enjoyment.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah. Isn't that, I mean, that is such a thing of like our circles just get smaller and smaller the older that we get. So we do
Yeah,
have to be intentional about making new friends. I
yeah.
love that. Yeah. Good, good, good. All right. Best show or movie that you've watched in the last year-ish?
I have two categories. One is the family category, so
Yeah.
the shows that we watch together. And we just finished this one called Crash Landing on You,
Oh,
and it's the whole Korean dramas. There's like this whole genre of shows
ah,
coming out of Korea.
yeah.
Gotta watch Crash Landing on You. It's so sweet and good, and we were all so sad when it ended. So I would
Oh,
definitely say give the K dramas a shot.
great. Good.
And then my others are cooking shows because they just a way to unplug. So my current favorite is the one called The Lost Kitchen, and it's the story of a restaurant in Maine, and
Oh,
they open up during spring to fall. But the only way you can make a reservation is you mail a postcard, and they draw postcards, call you, and then you got to fly to Maine and have this dinner, which looks absolutely incredible.
wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, that sounds like quite a cool experience. So
Yeah.
good. I'll have to check that one out. Thank you.
Yeah.
What is your love language and your Enneagram? I know you and I have focused in our careers a lot on disc,
Yeah.
but tell me about your love language and your Enneagram.
Love language is definitely words of affirmation. And I
Mhm.
think, being a coach, definitely I feel like words matter. That's how we connect
Yes.
with people,
Yeah.
how I give it and receive it.
Yeah.
And then my Enneagram, I can't help it. I am an 8, and it just is in my bones. And I'm always trying to work on being the healthiest version of the challenger
Yes.
and not letting the unhealthy seep in
Yeah.
more than I can help it.
No, you are such a healthy 8, and I have been on the receiving end of your healthy 8 so many times, and it is just
Mm.
really, really beautiful. Like you truly help people to grow and expand their perspectives in such a fascinating and incredible way. So I
Mm.
love that about you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, book that has transformed your life.
I'm in two ways right now. One is I am a total Michelle Obama fan. So
Ah,
I have read both Becoming and I read recently The Light We Carry. Love her books
mm,
and just feel uplifted by what she's trying to get across. And then also a total Brene Brown fan.
yeah.
So I read and watched her series on Atlas of the Heart,
Uh-huh.
where she's describing the emotions. I found that so helpful, the way that she was able to sort of rightly define things. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, I can get better at describing how I'm feeling based on what she was able to unpack there.
So good. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I have been a little bit reluctant to dive into that one because I knew it would be heavy in some respects, but I'm really looking forward to reading that. So,
Yeah.
and I haven't read The Light We Carry yet from Michelle Obama, but I loved Becoming. So, yeah, that's on my list as well. I saw she and Jimmy Fallon, I think, kind of doing a promo together of her new book. So good. Well, thank you. Thanks for letting us get to know you a little bit. So I asked you to join me for this conversation because we're in this series of the blessings and burdens of marriage. And similar to Leslie's story, who we heard in last week's episode, you went through the tragic loss of your first husband, and it's been a while since that happened, but maybe not as unexpected as Leslie's experience, but definitely still an unexpected thing for you. But you've been through this journey of the time that you and I have known one another of remarrying and moving through that aspect of, of life and of that marital journey. So I'd love for us to just talk about what that has looked like for remarrying after the death of your first husband and how that has been. So maybe just start with a little bit of, the story and the context of how you, it was a good 15-ish years before you remarried. So within that 15 years, like what was happening for you of thinking about, do I want to date and marry again? Just all of kind of those aspects of it.
Yeah. It was such a journey. And I don't know whether I'm a slow processor or what, but when Troy, my first husband, passed away, I was 31. And I felt like, among so many other things, that folks don't really know how to deal with a young widow.
Yeah.
And so there was, all sorts of well-meaning, but, crazy things said. And for me, what I think was real is that I felt so clearly that I had had a great love. And that if that never came again, it didn't take away from the fact that I had had a great love. And I felt comforted and just satisfied with that. And for me, I just dove into my career at that point and was in higher education at the time and just spent all my time in there. Was really not interested in dating for a long time. And then even once I was, and I would say it was, 4 or 5 years in at least, I was only interested in dating people that I knew did not want to get married.
Okay.
And I just wasn't interested in any of that. But I think I went through these times. There was a period of time where I am an only child, and I started thinking, well, gosh, when my parents get older, who's going to help me with all of that? And so then I'm like almost transactional and thinking about, I need a partner to go through this with. And at the same time, I think just not being ready. And I was changing so much in that time of really becoming the person who I feel like I am at this point. And so when it came to thinking about getting married again, I remember being at a Portland Timbers game, our MLS soccer team. And I had season tickets with two really good friends. And one of them, she and I were standing in line to get snacks during intermission. And she commented to me on, hey, I think we should go online
Hmm.
and date online. And I'm like, why? And she said, well, she's a physician. She's like, I'm finding that I have colleagues at work who are doing that and they're meeting people.
Huh.
And, what if you and I went on like Christian Mingle? And I'm like, Christian Mingle? Are you kidding? Mostly because I thought I am going to meet someone who reminds me of my past as opposed to
Hmm.
who I am.
Hmm.
And I come from a fairly conservative upbringing and have moved so far away from that I could feel myself getting a little panicky.
Huh.
And
Wow.
and my friend said, just be honest about who you are.
Hmm.
And the more that we tell people who we are, the better likelihood we have of someone, if they choose to opt in, they're
Hmm.
opting into a lot of truth that we just laid out there right to begin with.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I thought, okay, I can do that. My other friend who was with us, she helped me put together my online profile. And I remember just thinking, I'm not going to settle
Hmm.
because I think sometimes when we're moving back into dating, whether it's for the first time or you're back there again, we end up thinking, well, what can I deal with
Hmm.
versus what do I actually want?
Yeah.
And who am I? And how do I let that person out so that whoever connects with me, they're going in eyes wide open
Yeah.
and me too.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. I love that so much. I want to, for just a second, a little bit of a tangent, but I want to go back to what you said of being a young widow, because I think like our culture does not know how to do that at all. Like I don't know if you've read Susan Cain's book Bittersweet, but in there she talks about like our culture doesn't do death well,
Mhm.
a period, and then take young death and like our culture just flips out.
Yeah.
So are there like I guess maybe words of wisdom that you would have based on your journey that would help us, those of us who have not experienced what you have, to just be more welcoming, be more understanding, give space for not say, well meaning but stupid things, to young widows, young widowers, in their experience?
Yeah. I think there is at times, we're not only maybe not good with death, we're not good with unhappy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I know that I just went through a couple years of just like not being joyful
Yeah.
and and recognizing that it was making other people uncomfortable
Yeah.
and thinking, okay, I've got to be happy for people as opposed to just saying, man, I have got to just sit with this.
Yeah.
And what I ended up doing, I think, is really kind of shoving it under.
Mm.
And it wasn't until 5 years later, I had a dream one night. And in my dream, I was back in the hospital because I recognized that my husband had never died, that he was still in the hospital all those years.
Whoa.
And it was such a strange dream. And I woke up and immediately said, I need to go back to therapy. And
Wow.
I was a therapist that I knew, and he's like, Shannon, I just think that was your invitation to deal, that
Mm.
and so it was as fresh as though you were there on day one again.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so it helped immensely to re-engage and tell those stories and feel those feelings.
Yeah.
But it took me a while to get there. And it also, our friends went down one of two paths. One, they wanted to set me up as soon as possible, even
Yes.
though that just made me want to throw up. The second was because my husband was so young, he was 28 when he died. They were all like going to the doctor. Everyone was getting full body scans. Like, is there something the matter with
Mm.
me? And so just walking that through with people,
Mm.
very low capacity to deal, but just sort of walking through it with them
Yeah.
and being comfortable in my own skin and saying, I never thought I would be here. I
Yeah.
never thought I would be 31 and on my own again. I thought this
Mm.
was forever, and I thought forever was going to last a good long time, and it didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Gosh, I appreciate that so much. And yeah, I think you're so right that there is just a real lack of ability to empathize with people and just let them be in a space of unhappy and let ourselves even to be in that space. So I appreciate that so much. And it's a journey. It is a journey for sure. You talked about just this element of like being worried, being concerned about being authentic as you move forward, of being able to be the new you, if you will, of, obviously an experience like that is going to change you, whether you like it or not. So how did you through that, like, just really invite that newness and allow yourself to, to move into that place of authenticity so that you, as you said, wouldn't settle, for someone who wouldn't accept you in that new authentic you?
I think it was almost, and you only do this with people who know you well, but a little bit of crowdsourcing my profile
Ah,
because I recognized that I'd grown up fairly evangelical. I would not describe myself that way at all anymore.
hmm,
But I have a deep faith. And so describing I'm not evangelical, but at the time I was attending an Episcopal church
hmm,
and all that that meant. And I'd moved into a position of leadership and was very comfortable in my skin in that
hmm,
way.
hmm.
And also, because my husband passed away when he was so young, we had not had children yet. So
Yeah,
I was not a mother,
yeah,
and I was interested, and
hmm,
not necessarily having my own children because I felt like I was past the age where I was comfortable doing that, but I wanted a shot at being a mom
hmm,
or a stepmom to someone. And
hmm.
so being open with that, but you're re-entering a world and you don't know anyone else's story. And
Yeah,
so when I met Matt, we were deep in our own lives. And
yeah.
so then saying, how do two very well-formed adults come together and meld their stories?
Wow, wow. What did that look like? Like, how did you, I know we're fast forwarding a little bit, but how did you guys, move into that space of welcoming each other in your, very set
Yeah.
in your ways, not in a
Yeah.
negative way necessarily, but yeah, just set in life.
I found him online. He had already, his subscription had run its course. But of course, all of these dating sites will let you know if someone's looking at your
Yeah.
site because they want you to come back. So he got pinged that someone was looking
Uh,
and could see just a photo and just the briefest of descriptions. And so he tells the story of seeing that one evening and thinking, I'll sign up for one more month so I can meet this
wow.
person.
Wow.
And when we got together, we had a lunch date to begin with because I thought I want to be able to go back to work. If this guy's a dud, I want there to be a hard stop.
Yes.
Um, and I and we had such a great lunch and just felt such energy, chemistry. In fact, I even
Mm.
remember I had another date with someone else lined up, and I emailed that person and I said, I have had a first date that has just kind of captured me, and I don't know where it's going, but if it goes somewhere, I want to give it its full course. And if it doesn't, I would love to be able to come back to you. And
Hmm.
this guy was such a gentleman. He was like, good luck, go for it.
Wow.
And so I just sort of the N, I'm a big INTJ Myers-Briggsy kind of person. The N in me just sort of knew, let's see where this one goes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Wow. Oh, that's so good. I love that. Yeah. And you are so intuitive and yeah, so incredible. Friends, thank you so much for listening to today's conversation with Shannon. I just want to pop in super quick and ask that if you have a single woman in your life, whether she's not yet been married or has been divorced or is a widow, will you please think about sharing this episode with her? I know that Shannon's wisdom and insights are perfect for any single women who are considering dating, who are thinking about marriage, considering remarrying, just all of those, that this would just be a really great conversation for the single woman in your life to hear. I want to give a quick shout out to a couple people who have shared the podcast of late or commented or reviewed. Joyfully_Tracy on Instagram. Thank you so much for sharing about the podcast and saying that it's in your regular rotation. And on Apple Reviews, NMT-1, thank you so much for your comment about this being a conversation that is full of healing. If you will go on to whatever podcast player that you're using and leave a rating and review and share on your social media platform, I would be so grateful. Let's get back to the conversation with Shannon. So I think it's fascinating to me that one of the things that kind of helped you to think maybe you were ready to think about dating again was the pragmatics around having a partner to help you kind of in old age. That is such a fascinating thing, but I think it is so true for us. Like especially, the older that we get, like thinking about like, oh my gosh, what is life going to be like? And what am I going to need, 20, 30, 40 years from now? So was that like really a big component of it for you?
It was along the way. But by the time I decided to go on Christian Mingle, I really was beyond pragmatic and willing to be vulnerable.
Okay.
And I think that was a part that took the longest to get to, because if you're really going to enter into this, there's risk.
Yeah.
And as we get older, and I don't know that this is a truism for everyone, but I'm a little less risk taking than I was when I was younger.
Yeah.
And yet, if you're going to allow yourself to love and be loved, that's vulnerable.
Yes. Yeah.
And so getting to that spot, I think, but definitely our parents are aging, and Matt and I are both involved in the aging of our parents, and recognizing the help that a partner is, but also just the honor that time of life is.
Yeah.
And that we're also having conversations. When you see how your parents are dealing with something, then we're talking about how do we want to deal with that when we are that age as well.
Yeah. Gosh. It's just interesting from the standpoint of like knowing that the deciding factors for you were, there was the emotional part, there was the identity part, there was, the family relationship part, there was the, desire potentially to be a mom. That there's just, so many components in that. And I think, intuitively we think that and we know that, but when it just is interesting and fascinating to just see you, really break it down into, those multiple elements for sure. One of the things that Leslie talked about in our conversation last week was her desire to be intentional about honoring and celebrating like the milestones and the memories. How was it for you, and how has it been for you over the years of thinking like, what elements do I want to honor of Troy's memory of those milestones and experiences that were special dates, that you guys had together? What has that looked like?
Yeah. I would say for the first several years, I would regularly go, and it started with weekly to his gravesite.
Mm.
And then it turned into monthly and slowed down over time. But always wanting that place and space
Mm.
really mattered.
Yeah.
It took me a couple years, I would say. I think it took me a couple years to take my wedding ring off.
Oh, wow.
And so what I ended up doing with it is I had it pulled apart. And the necklace I have on right now that I wear every day is the center diamond to my wedding ring.
Mm.
And I just always wear it because it's always this reminder of the love that I had.
Oh.
And even when I got married again, I wanted a ring. Well, I bought a ring in a secondhand store. I said I want
Uh-huh.
a ring that's been in a great love because I have.
Yeah.
So just all of those pieces. But for Troy, I think that that constant conversation, I think I prayed more saying, "Hey God, tell Troy this," for
Mm.
years.
Mm.
And along the way thinking I want him to know how the story continued to
Mm.
unfold. Some things I think he would be proud of. Other things he's probably like, oh my gosh, you really did need me to stay around because that's crazy.
Oh,
And Leslie commented, and I'm still midstream in that episode, but the book, The Body Keeps the Score.
yeah.
For me, Troy passed away in 2000. In 2020, I was so churned up. And my one of my best friends is a therapist, and I was talking to her one day, and she does a lot of body work in her therapy. And she's like, Shannon, your body remembers this time
Yeah.
of year. Your body is remembering 20 years.
Wow.
And it's coming again in ways that are acute. And so it's grabbing your attention.
Mm.
And I thought, man, it's a reminder of how amazingly we are made. And it's also a reminder that our body holds things, and the ability to attend to that, I think, is so important. And it
Mm.
was a beautiful reminder too, because sometimes people are like, oh, it's been so many years since he's been gone. Yes, but in many ways it's fresh as
Yeah.
well.
You never forget. I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Oh, I appreciate that so much. This really makes sense for sure. What have we not yet talked about in your journey that would be helpful for us to talk about and share with others?
I think that joy on the other side,
Mm.
remarriage, however you come to that opportunity of being remarried, it is a fresh start.
Mm.
And it's been joyful to get back into a marriage relationship. To have Matt is truly my best friend, and
Mm.
we just dig each other big time,
Yeah.
and love that, and are going through challenging times of life, but together.
Yeah.
And we always refer to each other as two peas in a pod. And having the opportunity to be a stepmother
Yes.
was, because I didn't have children, and sometimes remarriage, you come, both have kids or no one's got
Mm.
kids, it's different every time, that is also a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And so I have thoroughly loved that part of it as well. And however people come to that, I've walked through death with other young widows since then. And
Mm.
some people find love again very quickly. Some people never do. There is no right or wrong to
That's
this
right.
whole thing. It's what is right for you, and giving yourself the time to figure that out.
Yeah.
But there is just this next opportunity, and I look at it as an executive coach, and I think more people identify with my story, meaning that life is not a straight ahead road. And if we sit like graduating college and we have our life planned out, there is so few of us where life actually goes down that straight road.
That's right.
there's twists and turns that we have no idea are going to be there.
Yeah.
And when I share that with clients, more often than not, it's the nodding head. Like, yeah, I had no idea I was going to be here. And maybe here is wildly more successful than I thought, wildly more painful. It comes in all forms, but there is always hope out there. And there's always the opportunity for more out there. And in our own timing, I feel like our hearts and our minds open up to that. And we move forward from there.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you so much. So who or what is inspiring courage in you today?
I think probably Coco. My stepdaughter is 18. She's about to graduate from high school. And we just made the choice. She made the choice of the college she was going to, as much as I would have loved to just hotwire that from day one. She made the choice. And so just that time of life where you are wrapping up high school and heading into college, like, oh my gosh, the excitement, the conversations, the what is next. My husband's already like planning on crying for a week. And, so it's just that time of life is so inspiring and fun to be a part of.
Oh, I love that. I love that for you guys and for Coco. Very special. Oh, well, thank you, friend. Thank you for joining me for this conversation. And I know that it's encouraging to me. So I know it's going to be encouraging to other women, and especially those who have walked a similar road to yours. So thank you.
Thank you. I have loved every minute of this, and I love your podcast. So it is well worth the time. I have walked many walks with my AirPods in, listening to the women that you are connecting us to.
Oh, good, good. Well, thank you so much. That means a lot. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gosh, I just loved this conversation with Shannon so much. I am just so grateful for women like Shannon who are willing to come and share their story and their journey with us. It is just so rich. And I know I've said it multiple times, but I just continue to get feedback from you who are listening and a part of this, of how grateful you are for this community and for these women who are willing to be vulnerable, to share, and to bring encouragement to each and every one of us. Because even though maybe the situations for us are different, or we may not be going through exactly what a particular woman who is sharing is going through, we can relate in some way or another, whether that's relate emotionally or relate experientially, or, relate from a principle level or a theoretical level. There's just, so much wonderful opportunity for each and every one of us to grow in our confidence, in our courage, in our joy as a result of hearing from women like Shannon. I just love how she closed out today's conversation of reminding us that all of our journeys are different. And there's such an opportunity for us to honor ourselves and honor each other in these different journeys that we're on, and to just really come alongside one another, knowing that we don't all face the same things and we don't all face things in the same ways, that how we respond, whether it's through our emotions or through our thinking and our beliefs, like we all come at things differently. So I just appreciate so much that she reminded us of that, and that provides us each with an opportunity to, again, honor ourselves and each other, and to show ourselves and each other grace. So thank you so much for listening in to today's conversation with Shannon. What an honor to help you to cultivate confidence, courage, and joy in your life and work. Thank you so much for inviting me to journey with you. I look forward to being back with you next week, where we'll hear another story from a woman whom I love and am inspired by and look forward to learning from.